Welcome to the Tiffany Mika podcast. What we do here is build the strength and courage in you to accomplish your big dreams and goals in your sport. No longer will you feel limited. You won't feel you're not good enough. You won't question whether you will make it. Those doubts will disappear because you will have the competitive edge over your opponents and leave them in your wake. And the bonus is others will notice. Listen up and take notes because I will show you exactly how to do it. Hey there, this is Tiff from the Tiffany Mika podcast and welcome to this week's episode. And today's episode, what I want to do today is share with you an interview that I had just recently about focus, how to reach your potential in sport, business and life, about my upcoming new book with a friend of mine, Danga, who has his such an awesome podcast show. And it's about really unlocking your hidden talent. And I really love his podcast show. And when my book was ready, he was really excited and he wanted to interview me about the book. So what I've got here for you today is I'm sharing with you the actual episode in which he was interviewing about the book and, you know, the frustrations that I went through with not achieving my goals, and also how to turn it around and what we actually look at in the book. Because the book is, even though I share stories in the book about me, it's not about me, it's all about helping you. So I hope you enjoy this interview, and just keep doing what you're doing, and look forward to you tuning in. A big thing too that I share in the book is really learning from your mistakes, how you come back from a disappointment or how you come back from seeing something as a failure is where the difference is.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of your Hidden Talent podcast. I recently had the pleasure to catch up with Tiffany Mika, who is the author of the new book, Focus, How to Reach Your Potential in Sport, Business, and Life. And in this episode, we dive into the key lessons from this book, which is available on Amazon right now, by the way. So jump online and grab a copy right now. But what I really appreciate about this conversation is Tiffany's story. Tiffany shares how she recognized the pain from her past mistakes in her tennis career and has used this as fuel to dedicate her life to teaching young female athletes how to focus at any given moment and to get the competitive edge, and most importantly, how to win in competitions. Tiffany is a high performance and mindset coach who works specifically with teenage girls and women to develop ultimate belief, supreme confidence, and to go after their dreams. And in this episode, Tiffany will practically teach you how you can turn past failures around, which she calls the comeback, through systems, strategies, and a specific mindset that Tiffany has developed through her tennis career and has helped her clients to develop a relentless belief in themselves, to show up every day with an unwavering discipline, and how to drive for excellence, and how to have an unshakable courage. Tiffany is super practical, which I love about her in this conversation, and she understands that self-belief alone won't get you where you need to go. So we dive in and discuss the principles of how we can all develop the skills, discipline, patience, and mental stamina to fuel us on our journeys. If you would like to connect with Tiffany, check out her website at tiffanymika.com. That's Mika.com, Mika, or search the Tiffany Mika podcast. And be sure to grab a copy of her new book, Focus, How to Reach Your Potential in Sport, Business, and Life, available right now on Amazon. All right, guys, I'm excited about this episode. I can't wait for you guys to get into it. And without further delay, I'd like to introduce to the show Tiffany Mika. Tiffany, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks, Bobby. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm super excited to have you on the show. Tiffany, your mission is something that I wanted to just dive straight into, because I was reading about your mission, about how your mission is to show girls, specifically teenage girls and women, how to be confident and to believe in themselves 100%, and to achieve their goals in business and sport and in life. Which, when I read that, I was super excited, because that is so in aligned with the vision that I have for this podcast, specifically around helping people understand that the potential within them is something that they need to unlock. It's all about unlocking your hidden talent and lives within us. I wanted to talk about where did that vision come from, and what was the story behind that inspired you to start your mission?
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing your research too. Look, what really inspired that was, I'll share the story. I was at a mastermind event in Thailand, and it was like a business strategy thing. And I was in the hotel room. We'd been to the event for the day. I was in the hotel room with my husband, and I was thinking about my two nieces, because I have a niece, Evie, she's 12, and my littler one, Lillian, she's 7. And I was thinking about them, how, and at that time they were 8 and 4. So I was thinking about them, and I was like, I don't want them not to believe in themselves. I want them to grow up to be really strong, courageous young women and really go after their dreams. And I was thinking about that, and then it triggered in me that I went, oh, you know what, I haven't done that for me. And at the age of 20, I gave up on me. And so, and right through that time, I had lack of belief, didn't think I was good enough, all of that kind of thing. And what, by feeling that way and thinking about the kids, and then me discovering that, hey, you know what, I gave up on me when I was 20, I just started to absolutely sob for the next 2 hours. And my husband was like, Ian, he was going, oh, what can I do to help you to get through this? And I said, just let me cry, because I said, I've been living with this, because I had this regret of not achieving my big goal when I was 20 and giving up on me when I was 20. And I just cried uncontrollably, and I said to him, just let me cry. I said, just let me let it out, because I've been holding on to this for 25 years. And I said, if I can let that go and release that, I said, I think I'll be okay after that. So that's really sort of the backstory of how this came about. And then I was like, well, you know what, I've got to be a mentor for my nieces, which I've always felt that way anyway. But I was thinking on a much bigger scale than that. There's not only mentoring them and helping them become confident and as you know, core belief. If you don't believe in you, you're not going to achieve what it is that you want. And I thought, this has got to happen on a much bigger scale. And I've really got to help those young women, teenage girls, young women and women, really help them get out there and accomplish what it is that they want to accomplish in their life, because I'm doing it. I'm out there, as I'm getting older, I'm still out there setting the example. I'm out there achieving and doing what I want to do. And it doesn't matter how old you are, you can get out there and do it. It's just that you just got to get this right, your mind's right. So.
Get your mind right. Love that. And you talked about giving up on yourself when you were 20 and your big goal. What was your big goal when you were 20 years old?
Yeah, my big goal, I wanted to be a professional tennis player, but not just a professional tennis player. I actually wanted to be number 1 tennis player in the world. That was always my big dream as a kid. So when I took up tennis at 7, I just knew as soon as I stepped onto the tennis court, and I don't know if you felt the same with things, but I stepped onto the court and I just thought, this is it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I only ever saw myself as a tennis player. I did play a lot of other sports, but tennis was my thing. So that was all that I was focused on right through school. And, I did go overseas and play and compete overseas as well. But at 20, I just didn't know what to do. And I felt stuck, and I didn't think very highly of myself anyway. I had very low self-esteem as well. So I just thought, well, here I am, I'm 20, I should have made it by now. I think looking back, I say young.
Looking back, yeah.
Should have made it by now. Oh, well, I'm probably not going to make it, and I'm not good enough. So I guess I'll, go back home and go to uni. And my dad had this thing about getting a real job. So,
right.
That was pretty much what happened in that time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you had a dream for when you were a young kid to be not only a professional or a great tennis player, but to be number one in the world, which is to have that dream is absolutely amazing for any kid to have or anybody to have, because it's easy for us to sort of cut ourselves down to reality. If you voice say, I want to be the best at the world at something, but to have that courage at a young age to be able to go through that is incredible. So going back to that, so you're at 20 years old, you were struggling with, these limiting beliefs that you had for yourself. And I can see that the mission that you have today is because I know that there's a voice that older Tiff is probably looking at younger Tiff and giving her some advice right now. Am I right?
That's exactly right. God, little Tiff. I wish younger Tiff had listened to older Tiff. Yeah, for sure.
And what would you be saying to younger Tiff right now?
Well, younger Tiff, I'd be saying, okay, well, we've hit some barriers, Tiff, that's okay. It's just showing for you to get to the next level. What we need to do is we need to go and work on your mindset, because obviously what's going on for you, the way in which you feel about yourself, and, because even like when I was competing, even in that time, I was very down on myself all the time. Nothing was ever good enough, and I never felt like I was good enough. So I'd be working on helping to build my confidence, and also helping to give me, systems and strategies to help me work through all these barriers that I was encountering. Because there was not only some things that were obviously missing from a skill point of view, even though the skills were quite good, it still needed the work, and also I needed to learn how to strategize out on the tennis court. I needed to know how to manage my emotions out on the tennis court. I needed to know how to deal with pressure situations that came up. There was so much. So I would have said, Tiff, look, you know what, this is what we've got to do. We've got to work on all these areas in your sport. And if you want to go there, that's great. I'm going to help you all the way. But these are the things that we've got to start looking at. And the first thing we need to look at is where you're at right now and what's actually holding you back.
And in your story, Tiff, there was something that really stood out to me, which was your ability to take pain from the past and turn it into a mission that is going to serve other people today.
Yeah. It took a long time, like 25 years for me to figure it out. I think too, like I did start the journey of when I was about 35, I discovered Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That's a great book.
Yeah.
And what I discovered with that was, like, because my self-esteem even till that point was not great, and I can still considered myself as a failure because I didn't achieve my ultimate dream. And so by learning, more about how my head and my thoughts worked was like a really good introduction with that book, because what it started to do was started to help me start thinking in a different way. I knew there was things missing, but I just didn't know what they were. And that book really started that off. Mm-hmm. And then, over the years, it's got me to where I am now. That big instance that happened at 45, was massive for me, and realising how much that I had still was holding on to that non-achievement and giving myself a really hard time about that. Mm-hmm. But being able to then go, you know what, yep, that was incredibly painful, but I don't want people, and I don't want young women to go through what I had to go through and live like the next 25 years with regret and look back and go, oh, gee, I could have done that. And if I had this, access to this, this and this, because I just didn't know how to do that. I'm like, well, this is what I want to do. I want to show you the way.
Yeah. And what do you think? What do you think it's a common thing for high achievers to put so much pressure on themselves? And even though they are achieving at a high level, like you probably were playing at a very high level when you were younger, to feel like, you know what, I'm not winning. But from an external standpoint, like if someone else looking at from the outside looking into your life, they're probably thinking that you're doing an incredible job. Like, what is it about high performers that they are so hard on themselves when they assess themselves sometimes?
I think that's that expectation of what you know, that what you're capable of. And, you know, the thing that actually happens too is, like, we don't really realise at times, like, how much longer certain things will take to get there either. So being a high achiever and working on what it is that you want to achieve, and if it doesn't happen in a short period of time, you can get quite frustrated about that. And I think with high achievers, they understand that it is a process that you've got to go through. And I think a lot of people actually don't see that. I see that so much even with older women, you know, because I still teach golf. And I see that so much with older women. They expect that they should be able to do it, but they haven't done the hard yards yet.
Right.
And I think high performers have expectations for sure, and they set goals and they work towards them and they work really, really hard, and they've got strategies in place. But I think too, the high performers actually understand the process so much better than other people, because other people see a high performer and go, wow, look at them, they look so amazing. Like, you know, you see Serena Williams, or you see Novak Djokovic, or, you know, Roger Federer, and you go, wow, they look so amazing. But you don't see behind the scenes the detail of work that they have to go through, and it's taken them years to get to that level.
That's right. So it's all about the patience. And if you're a young athlete, I guess understanding that, how do you balance between objective self-assessment and beating yourself up?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think all you can do, and this is where I'm feeling where I'm at right now, even in my life, is that all you can do is you can put your best effort that you can give in that day. So if your day that you approach and you're not quite performing as well as you did yesterday, that's actually okay, because what it does, and this is how I look at it, I think of it like as a bank account. So what you're constantly doing is you're constantly working on improving what you're doing and getting better, and you're constantly putting those deposits into your bank account. And then over a period of time, because you've put all those deposits in, even if you haven't performed as well as you've wanted to, sometimes it's been quite high and sometimes it hasn't been quite where you wanted it to be. It's because you've been constantly working on improving and getting the job done as best you can on that day. When you need it, like when you really need it, you can draw on it because you've put that time into it. That's how I look at it.
All right. I love that. Because the reason why I asked that was kind of like a selfish question, because I suffer from the same thing as well. Like I understand to not beat myself up when I'm not performing at a certain level. Although I do have that expectation of myself that I can perform at a certain level, and it's natural to get frustrated. But what I'm always catching myself from doing is balancing between not performing at the level that I should have been performing, and then finding the lessons of where I can objectively look at my performance and say, okay, this is where I went wrong. This is how I can fix it for the next time. And then this is how I'm going to separate myself emotionally from looking at myself objectively to come up with an actual strategy to fix the problem.
Oh, for sure. And you look at where your focus is. If you're out there competing and your focus is, oh, well, that's just not good enough, I'm not doing what I need to be doing. Where's the focus isn't actually on the performance then, isn't it? You're looking at what's not working and you're giving yourself a really hard time. So you get too caught up in your head rather than focusing on the process that you need to make it happen.
Got it. So it's almost like you're trying to control the outcome versus focusing on what you actually can control, which would be your performance on the day, like the basics. Yeah, go on. No. Yeah, no. So I was just going to say, like, just say with you're playing tennis, for example. Like, if you're an athlete and you find yourself, you're 3 games down in the final set, and you've been serving like crap. What would be the two opposing mindsets of what would be an example of like a destructive mindset, and how could you flip yourself out of that to get yourself to focus on what you need to do to get the job done?
Okay, and I'll share a story about that one. It's very
Love
shortly,
it.
but
Yes.
right, I've been through that many times, but there was one significant one that came that stood out. Very destructive is really telling yourself that you're not good at, you're not good enough. You're having yourself on. You can't do it. They're too good for you. You're hopeless. You're useless. You suck. You know, all your energy is focused on how bad you're playing or how bad you're performing. And you just spiral out of control. You may also be looking at, oh, well, what am I going to do when I'm finished? Your mind may wander as well. A lot of it will come back to being not performing the way that you want to perform, and therefore you give yourself a really hard time about it. You also may be looking at, friends and family that are watching or other people that you want to impress and like, oh, God, they think I'm crap, because I am crap. And, there's all of that kind of thing that will go on. To snap yourself out of it, though, that's the challenge. But you can do that. Is you've got to go back into. I'm very much into routines. So, it doesn't matter whether it's tennis or golf or soccer or swimming, whatever it is. What you've got to do is you've got to bring yourself back into a routine and a breathing mantra that's actually going to help you settle down and go, okay, all I can do is focus on this point. So if we look at tennis, for example, for you to win a game, you're 3-day games down, and you're down 3-love in the last set, all you can focus on is that shot, not the point, but the shot.
Right.
And you do the best shot that you can do, and then you string the next best shot that you can do together. Then you string the next best shot, and then you just focus on. I like to say it's one shot at a time.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, because if you get too far ahead of that and you start thinking of the result, you're gone because you're actually not focused and staying in the moment. And that was the biggest thing that I learned through not achieving what I wanted to achieve in tennis. And that was the biggest win that I had with golf was that when I took up golf to play golf, later on, 14 years after I gave up tennis, that was the biggest thing I learned. It was all about routines, breathing, systems, structure, what I have to say to myself as I'm approaching the ball, what I need to do as I'm setting up to the ball, what I need to do when I'm actually hitting the ball, what I need to do after I've played the shot, what I then do between, playing the next shot. And when you can then create that structure, it's one shot at a time, then you go off and then you do the next one. So it's all about staying in the moment. I mean, you watch all the champions play. I know I always refer back to tennis because it's my first love, but you look at all the really good players, especially the guys like Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, especially those three, they will stay out there. They don't care if it's going to be a 6-hour game. They will stay there and they will play shot for shot until they win that point. Then they'll go out there and the next shot for shot until they win that point. And it's putting them all together.
That's a good point because I can specifically remember being a kid and watching Roger Federer, one of Roger Federer's first games against Pete Sampras. Mm-hmm. And it ended up becoming a 5-set game that went really late into the night on the Australian Open. And I think Federer actually beat Pete for the first time. And I remember just sitting there watching it and thinking the amount of mental stamina and endurance to be I'm 3 sets down and then to come back and win it in a 5-set game against one of the best players in the world. It takes a completely different mindset. And as you're talking about routines, I specifically remember another story with Serena Williams when she was down and she was losing in a game and the camera shot to her and she was sitting on a chair in between games and she had pulled out this little sheet and she was just reading, looked like some notes that she had, and are probably cues that she probably wrote down to remind herself how to stay focused in moments of pressure.
Bingo, yeah. Exactly. And a lot of athletes don't know how to do that. They haven't learned that. So the young athletes don't get taught that because they just go and have their training sessions, with their coach. And I mean, I was the same when I was teaching tennis as well. I'd come and have training sessions because I didn't know what I know now. And then we just focus on the the skills as such. You wouldn't be focusing on what you need to do with systems in order to create you to stay focused during each point and what you have to do in the transitional times and all of that kind of thing to make it happen. Yeah, but I'll share that story. I want to share that story with you.
Yes, please.
I had given up tennis, but I had pursuing tennis. But I was still I had a tennis coaching business after I went to uni, and but I still had the tennis demons, but I still wanted to play. I'd still play, competition, singles and doubles and so on. So I was playing this singles match against another fellow coach, female coach. And we were playing a semi-final, and I had lost to her the year before, and there was no way that I was going to lose to her this time because she didn't beat me like I beat me. I let her win, and that really, can I say, pissed me off?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
It really pissed me off. Yeah, really pissed me off that she beat me because she didn't deserve the win because I just couldn't function. So here we are 12 months later, and I'm playing her again. And I'm like, I'm going to carve you up something big. And I lost the first set 6-3, and I was down 5-love, 40-love in the second set.
No way.
And I was so, because I still had my tennis demons, because I still didn't know how to get through what I was experiencing, because I so badly wanted to beat her. And I was so worked up that I froze. I couldn't physically move. And that's what happened the year before as well. I couldn't physically move to the ball. So the ball had come near me and I couldn't even swing at it. I missed a lot of shots because I just was so nervous, so badly wanted to beat her, but physically I just felt like when you've got the flu and you're heavy and just froze up. So in that moment, I was down 40-love, 1 point left. That was quite funny looking back now. But I went, you know what, Tiff, you can do this. Just focus on playing the best shot you can. That's all you got to do. Just go one shot at a time. And bang, I won I won that set 7-5, and then I won the next set 3. Yeah, that's crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy because I was physically struggling and mentally struggling, and I just changed my focus because, again, I was too concerned about what everyone else was watching by the sideline, what they thought. How can I lose to her? She's so hopeless. I'm such a much better tennis player. There's all these thoughts going on. I can't lose to her again, And, but I had spent – so by the time I got to the final, lost the final, I'll admit, because I was so emotionally spent by coming back, I didn't care what happened in the final. The final actually didn't mean much to me at all.
Right.
Everything meant everything to me in that semi, because I really wanted to prove to myself that I could beat her no matter what. And I was throwing everything, all the challenges were thrown at me, and I was able to turn that around. So I was quite proud of that effort. I didn't really realise that what I had picked up in that match was the thing that was the key to help make the difference in everything for the future, because I wasn't tuned in enough at that time. I think I was still too out of it in my head, I think. Yeah. For it to be a clue, like, okay, Tiff, there's a clue here. Why don't you do that again?
Exactly. And then taking the process one step at a time, the process to sort of focus on that one thing, that one task that's right in front of you, and to break down the overall, don't to take on too much and sort of chunk it down to small replicable processes, like little steps.
Exactly. And even now, like with building what I'm building now, everything's just one step at a time.
Awesome.
One shot at a time, one step at a time. All I can do is focus on what I can do in this moment. I've planned everything out throughout the day, and I'll just get through this thing, focus on that, doing the best that I can in that, and then I'll move on to the next one so that I can look back at the day and go, yep, that was a really productive day. I did the best that I could do. Felt a bit tired when I started, but wow, did I finish strong, something along that line. I'm always happy with that.
So Tiffany, I know that you're a busy woman and you have a lot of things on the go right now. You run your podcast, you run your business, you run your consulting and coaching business. And I also hear that you're in the process of publishing your very first book. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. Here it is here.
Oh, there it is.
Yes, there it is, my very first copy. It's called Focus, How to Reach Your Potential in Sport, Business and Life. So,
Amazing.
yeah. It's been a long time coming, that book. It's been in my head for a long time. And, I'm very excited to have written that.
Let's take the opportunity right now to have a chat about, the key philosophies and the key teachings in that book. And for our listeners out there, what can they kind of expect from the book, and what can they start applying, little tidbits of knowledge that they can look forward to learning in your first book?
Yep. Really, what the book is about is lessons learned from sport. So all the requirements that you need in order for you to achieve in sport. And really, sport's a big analogy for life. So whatever you need to achieve in sport, you're going to need that in life. You're going to need that in business as well. And that was really the theme behind writing that, because I thought, wow, I've learned so much about belief and discipline and commitment and learning the skills and, discipline, everything that I've learnt through sport. I went, this is such a great analogy for life. And that was really the reason that I wanted to write that, was like, you know what, it doesn't matter that I've been a sports person my whole life. Everything that I share in this book is really about helping you in your life. It doesn't matter that you're not a sports person. You might be very business orientated. You might be an actor. You might be a dancer. You might be a farmer. It doesn't matter. Everything that I wanted to share in this book, all the key lessons from that, is what you can apply to whatever it is that you want to pursue.
It's kind of like a science and a system and strategy and process we've spoke about earlier today, around following a certain set of rules, and a certain set of actions to get a certain set of results. It can be both positive and negative. And what I look up to a lot of pro athletes, like high level athletes, is the amount of dedication and discipline and self-awareness that they need to invest in their craft every single day, regardless of how they feel emotionally, pushing that aside and being aligned and knowing that they have a greater vision and a goal that they need to accomplish, and they need to do certain things on a regular basis in order to get a certain result. So I can completely relate to your philosophy, I guess, in the link between life and sport.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you look at look at all the athletes that you admire, like all the elite athletes. I mean, they all started at grassroots level. They've all been through the trials and tribulations of getting to where they are through discipline, commitment, belief, hard work, trying to work through all the obstacles that are thrown at them. It hasn't just, oh, wow, look at them, they're so famous and they're making all this money and they're number one in the world and they're doing this, this and this. They've done the hard work to get there. We're just seeing all the glory. We just see them compete in that moment. Wow, look at all the endorsements that they get, and oh wow, they've just won 1.5 million for winning a tournament. But you don't see all the work and dedication that they've put in, to create that. Yeah. And behind the scenes, yourself, it's hard work, and it requires a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of emotion. Yeah. But a lot of people don't actually see that, and I think making people more aware of okay, this is where you want to go. Okay, these are the things that you need to have in place to help get you there, and it's all strategy, systems, routines, mindset. It's a combination of all of those that's created the champion athletes that we see today, or even in business. The same thing.
Great,
isn't it?
And all of those teachings, that approach to sport and business, are these the philosophies and the principles that you're teaching in Focus? Yes. So
the biggest one that I am very passionate about is belief, because and I talk about belief a lot in the book, because if you don't have belief in yourself, because you can work as hard as you like, and I'm a prime example of that in my tennis career. I worked my butt off. I'd be doing the 10 to 12 hours of training a day, not just
hitting balls, but, all the physical training that I had to do as well. And, and I was a little bit behind. I went to a tennis academy and I was a little bit behind, so I had to make up a lot. So I did that so I could make sure that from a physical standpoint I was overtaking everyone, which was great. But I didn't believe in me. So I had all this hard work, because I've always had a very good work ethic, worked really, really hard, but I didn't believe. So every time that I'd step on the court, I'd go, oh, well, it's not good enough, or, you'll never make it, you're hopeless. And so he told you you're going to lose that. And that stems from your core beliefs. So if you don't believe that it's possible, and it doesn't matter how hard you work, you're not going to get there because you don't believe that you can.
Right.
And that's a big theme in the book that I talk about, especially in the first chapter. I talk about that, and I talk about the lack of belief that I had in me, and the lack of by having that lack of belief held me back from really achieving what I wanted to achieve. And I didn't realise, obviously, that till a lot later on down the track.
Mm-hmm.
And with the book itself, like even at the end of each chapter, I share stories about what's happened to me and so on, only so that you can relate and go, you know what, yeah, I'm feeling that way too. But I want it to be an active workbook. So because I've got these questions at the end going, okay, how am I going to build belief in me? What is it that I need to do? So I pose a lot of questions, and I get you to, get a journal out, write down the answers to the questions that I pose to you, because I want you to walk away reading the book going, wow, that's helping me really understand what I need to do and where I need to go. And it's helping you through a process of really getting to achieving your goals in life. I'm not saying it's the be all or end all, but it's a really good foundational book to help you understand what you need in place to really get to where you want to go. And that's a big thing that I'm about is foundations. A lot of people don't work so much on the foundations. They want to be right up the top straight away. And it's like a house, isn't it? If you want to build that house, you've got to have really good, solid foundations. And if your foundations aren't in place, then it doesn't happen.
So it's a practical book. Yes. It's going to guide the readers to self-assess, read stories, relate to the stories, and then apply those teachings immediately to themselves and to daily habits that they can apply after reading each chapter. So chapter 1, all about building that self-belief.
Yes.
What comes next? I'm excited.
The first one really is about going after your ultimate dream, and I talk about that and talk about what you need to have in place to go after your ultimate dream. And then I get heavily, and I talk about belief in that, but heavily believing in you is the second chapter. But it's all about, making sure that you really learn the skills, because if you don't learn the skills either, how are you going to get to where you need to go? Like there's all these skills that we have to learn in sport or in business. You have to learn how to market in business. You have to learn how to communicate your message to that person that you want to work with and want them to work with you.
I can see now that how systematic you are in your approach in your book. So you started with a vision, belief in your vision, and belief in yourself. Yes. And then identifying the skills that you need to acquire in order to make that a reality, and building self-reliance and self-confidence as a process through learning the skills. Because you can have a dream, you can have a vision, you can have goals, but without actually learning the skills and without actually working on it daily, we're talking about having that courage to go through, those moments of self-doubt where you get that self-reliance and self-relief from is from developing the skills and actually putting in the reps.
Oh, right? Absolutely. Yeah. A big thing too that I share in the book is really learning from your mistakes, how you come back from a disappointment or how you come back from saying something as a failure is where the difference is. And that's what I talk about a lot in there as well.
When you fail, it's not the failure itself that will define you, but rather the people will define you by the way that you bounce back from that failure. And that's what people are watching.
Yeah.
So, sure. Okay, so the comeback, I love the concept of the comeback. What comes after the comeback?
We know that it's all systems and habits and it's the type of habits that you're actually putting in place to help you move forward. So it's certain, you could call them rituals, whatever you want to call them, that you do in the morning leading up to, you know, whatever it is that you're going to do for the day. It's what you're doing at night before you go to bed. It's what you're doing throughout the day that's going to help you really move in the direction where you want to go.
And so your book teaches you the habits that you need to have on a daily?
Yeah, on a daily, but also being patient, you know, because a lot of the things, especially the big things that we want, they take a lot longer to accomplish. Like even with my book, like my book I wrote in 6 weeks. And
6 weeks to write the whole book?
Yeah,
wow.
6 weeks, yeah. So
you need to write a book on how to achieve that.
Yeah. Sometimes, and this is sometimes, it's not all the time, sometimes I achieve things quite quickly and I'm like, whoa, gee, that was a great week. But then other times things take quite long. So in my head when I was with the book, I was like, oh, yeah, well, when I come back from being overseas, so I was away for a month, when I come back, that'll be okay. It'll just take me another month and I'll have the book done. You know, it can't be too hard. And it was definitely a process that I had to go through because it ended up taking 15 months to actually have the book ready for print. And it wasn't from me. You know, it was finding the right people and getting the right people in place to make sure that happened. I also had a lot of advice from whether to go, you know, traditional publisher or go self-publishing and, you know, who do I get to edit it? Who do I get to proofread it? You know, what's the cover going to look like? There's a lot of things around that when I write the second one, it's going to be much quicker. It'll be a much quicker process because I know what to do now. That particular thing, even though I was like, okay, at the end of every quarter, I'm going to have the book published. I'm going to have the book published. I'm going to have the book published. Yeah. Well, I wrote that out like 1, 2, 3, 4, here we are, 5 times, like for quarters, if we go that way. And so that's taken longer than I wanted it to, but it's here now, and it's worth the effort, it's worth the frustration, it's worth the pain, it's worth not knowing what to do, everything, because I've learnt so much from the process. And you know, like sometimes your goals don't. Okay, great, I wrote the book in 6 weeks, but it's taken me 15 months to actually, you know, have a printed copy.
Yeah.
But I've still got the goal. I've still got there, and I think that's the most important thing. It doesn't matter how long it takes. We just sometimes we underestimate how long it takes.
I wanted to share that story on this podcast, and I think it's a rare occurrence for anyone to be part of the journey from the start, and then to see it finally come to life. And I know that this is only the beginning for you, and there's going to be more and more iterations that come out. So congratulations. I'm really stoked for you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, it's very exciting, and definitely a journey. And that's the big thing too with you know, whoever's listening, you know, to us talking is like, don't give up. Yeah. Don't give up. Just keep going. Just keep going, because it might just take longer to get there.
I love that. So Tiff, is there a time frame roughly when we can start getting ready to get this book?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the 1st of November.
Okay.
Is launching it. I'm actually working on a program as well called Get Focused, which does complement the book, but it goes into much more detail in really how to help you focus so much better. More geared around, it will help people in as an entrepreneur and business and so on, but it's really more geared around the sports person, because that's really what I wanted to really focus on right now, was really helping those athletes being able to get focused. And it was quite interesting. I just wanted to share this story because it's just popped into my head. I was talking to a mother yesterday, and her son's 15. He wants to be a professional golfer. That's where he you know, obviously wants to achieve. And his mum was telling me that he gets quite worked up when she goes to watch him. And I said, well, I can understand that, because I said I was like that at the same age when my mum came to watch me. You know, I said I used to make her hide behind the tree so she couldn't see me, and because I wanted to perform so much better when my mum was around. And she said, oh yeah, well, he's, you know, I have to do the same. And I said, well, he's only trying to show you how good he can play. She said, well, he's just going to have to get over that, and then, because if that's what he wants to do, he's going to have millions of people watching him. And I thought, well, that's great to say that, just get over it. But unless you have systems and strategies and habits and those types of things in place, then you're not going to get over it because you don't know how to do that.
And that's what you want to teach your clients. And get focused.
So that's exactly. And that's what the Get Focused programs, based on is to help you have some systems and strategies in place that's going to help you focus better when you compete.
That's great. I love this. And when will this be available as well?
Well,
I'm asking all the hard questions because I'm excited for you.
The plan is November. So
all in November. Okay.
All in November. I do have a No Limits Academy I'm working on as well behind the scenes. It's going to take a little bit longer to come out, and that's really focused on sport, business, life, everything.
Amazing.
It's really to help unlock your potential and let go of those limitations. So that'll be coming up later on. But the big focus, obviously, is the book right now, Focus and the Get Focused program. Yeah, that's
amazing. I'm going to have the links to all of those details in the show notes. So anyone listening wants to get more details on where they can find the book, find out more about the Get Focused program, they'll all be linked up in the show notes.
Thank you, Bobby.
So Tiff, I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I absolutely loved the conversation that we just had. I want to acknowledge you on the work that you're doing, the message that you have, and the role model that you are being for particularly young women out there to build that self-confidence and the courage to go after the big goals. I love your systematic approach towards high performance and the very practical applications of these teachings that unless they are broken down in a systematic way, in a way that people can understand the theory behind it, it's hard for anyone to kind of grasp how they can apply that to their life. So I just want to really acknowledge you, congratulate you on your work, and acknowledge the work that you're doing to serve a lot of young athletes, entrepreneurs, and a lot of people out there. So thank you very much, Tiff, for your work.
Yeah, that's all right. Thank you, Bobby. I really appreciate it. And can I just say to you as well, like, I've really enjoyed listening to your podcast because they're just really awesome. And I've got so much out of them. And I really love the question that you ask at the end of it. I don't know if you're going to ask me that, but it really that question that you've asked at the end of each podcast really helped also get me very clear in my direction as well. That had a huge impact on me this year. So I just wanted to acknowledge you for that too, and thank you for that, because that's also been part of the process to help me get very clear on where I'm headed.
Thanks, Tiff. And I think I know the question that you are referring to. Being the one, if this microphone was connected to all 7.7 billion people on this planet.
Yes.
What would be the one message that you would share to all of those people?
The one message, I've always got this saying that I say at the very end, is dream big, believe in you, and go after your dreams. I always like to finish off with that because if you don't believe in you, it's not going to happen. So you need to have big dreams. You need to believe so deeply in that you can do anything, never have any limits, never let anyone hold you back, and don't worry about what anyone else says. That's just their opinion. It's not your opinion. And just go after those dreams. It's, the world's your oyster, and just go for it.
Amen. Thank you so much, Tiff.
Pleasure.
Love your work.
Yeah, thank you.
And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Tiffany Mika. Be sure to jump online on Amazon and grab a copy of a new book, Focus, How to Reach Potential in Sport, Business and Life, which is available right now. And if you're enjoying this podcast and you're enjoying the content, I would love it if you could share this with a friend who you feel that would benefit from this information. And if you're enjoying it, reach out and let me know how it's going. Subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It helps out a lot. And I just want to thank everyone who has been supporting the podcast so far, sending me messages. I've been really appreciating your words of kindness. So it gives me fuel to keep on going and keep creating this content, because this content is created for you guys. But looking forward to the next one. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you haven't yet downloaded the #1 deadly mistake athletes make sure you go to tiffany-mika.com and download the #1 deadly mistake athletes make. Share with me what you like best about what you heard in the comments section wherever you hear this episode. Share with your friends that you know that would benefit from these episodes, and please leave a 5-star review wherever you hear these episodes. I would really appreciate it. Dream big, believe in you, go after your dreams. Have an absolutely awesome day.